The Zarkonian Analysis Center aboard the flagship Inevitable Victory hummed with activity as specialists compiled their assessment of Earth. Lieutenant Kezra, head of xenobiology, scrolled through human medical records intercepted from hospital databases. Their biology is remarkably inefficient, she reported, displaying 3D renderings of human anatomy on the central holographic projector. Single hearts, no redundant organs except primitive kidney pairs, and respiratory systems vulnerable to countless atmospheric contaminants. They require constant maintenance through sleep cycles, consuming nearly a third of their lifespans. Admiral Vextor nodded with satisfaction. Catalog their weaknesses for the subjugation phase. Commander Drelvos, the tactical officer, stepped forward with his findings. Their military forces remain divided by arbitrary planetary regions they call nations. No unified command structure exists. Their most advanced weapon systems require satellite guidance we can easily disable. Their aircraft still rely on atmospheric lift principles and combustible fuels. The Admiral's crystalline eyes glittered with amusement. And their defensive capabilities against orbital bombardment? Essentially non-existent, Commander Drelvos replied with a dismissive gesture. They possess basic missile interception, systems designed for their own primitive projectiles, not our matter disruption technology. Science Officer Pelnara, youngest of the command staff, cleared her throat tentatively. Admiral, if I may, I've noticed some anomalies in their scientific development trajectory. The Admiral turned his attention to the junior officer. Explain. Their advancement pattern is highly irregular compared to other species we've encountered. While technologically limited overall, they show unexpected sophistication in narrow fields, particularly theoretical physics, quantum computation, and artificial intelligence research. Some of their theoretical models approach concepts our civilization only discovered after achieving interstellar capability. Admiral Vextor waved away her concerns. Academic curiosities without practical application, their energy production remains locked to fossil combustion and primitive nuclear fission. They cannot translate theories into meaningful defense technology without proper industrial capacity. Yes, Admiral, Pelnara replied, her inner eyelids flickering in the Zarkonian expression of hesitation. Still, their information technology contains unusual security protocols unlike patterns we've seen on other worlds. Their encryption methods seem unnecessarily complex for their development stage. Commander Drelvos interjected with a laugh. Because they spend resources defending against themselves. Their planetary networks show constant intrusion attempts between their own factions. They've evolved complex digital defenses against internal threats, not external ones. Precisely, Admiral Vextor concluded. A species still fighting itself poses no challenge to unified Imperium forces. Their disorganization makes them vulnerable. He turned to the communications array. Prepare the standard ultimatum message in their major languages. Deployment of shock troops begins 30 orbital cycles after transmission. Resource extraction teams should be ready to move within 60 cycles. As the command crew dispersed to their stations, Science Officer Pelnara lingered at her console, studying an unusual spike in Earth's electromagnetic emissions, a pattern that hadn't appeared in any previous scans. Something about the humans' response to their arrival wasn't following predicted behavior models. She made a note to investigate further, but didn't raise her concerns again. After all, questioning the Admiral's assessment twice in one briefing would not be good for her career. Dr. Petrova's announcement silenced the emergency UN session. The Russian quantum physicist stood confidently despite the chaos, her lab coat wrinkled from 48 hours without sleep. You're saying we can listen to their communications? The Secretary General asked, leaning forward. Not just listen, Dr. Petrova replied, tapping her tablet. Their quantum encryption relies on principles my team has been studying for years. They're using a dimensional folding technique we theorized but haven't implemented yet. Ironically, because we lacked sufficient power sources. Across the world, similar discoveries emerged through unlikely channels. In Lagos, cybersecurity expert Emmanuel Okafor noticed patterns in the electromagnetic interference affecting cellular networks since the aliens arrived. He reached out to his former professor at MIT, who connected him with Dr. Singh in Bangalore. The interference isn't random, Emmanuel explained during their hastily arranged video call. It follows mathematical progressions similar to our most advanced compression algorithms, but with quantum variations. Dr. Singh nodded excitedly. Yes, we're seeing the same patterns. They're using subspace communication channels that operate on principles we've only theorized. But why would advanced aliens use technology we can detect, let alone understand? Asked Kevin Chen, the Seattle teenager who had joined their growing network after his Reddit post about energy signatures caught a SETI researcher's attention. Dr. Williams, the retired Air Force cryptographer who had worked on the original SETI protocols decades earlier, offered an explanation from his home in Colorado. Because they don't think we're looking. Their intelligence gathering focused on our official military capabilities, not theoretical research or civilian technology. Meanwhile, military responses worldwide proved ineffective. Fighter jets scrambled toward the alien vessels returned with pilots reporting complete navigational failures. Missile launches ended with weapons disintegrating mid-flight. The Zarkonian ships remained untouched, hovering ominously as their countdown continued. President Adeyemi faced mounting pressure to attempt nuclear strikes despite the risks. We need something, anything that might work, her Joint Chiefs urged during a bunker meeting beneath the White House. The president was about to authorize the nuclear option when her personal phone, not the secure government line, lit up with a message from an unfamiliar number. Don't launch nukes. We found their weakness. Need 24 hours. Check your university email from 15 years ago. Puzzled, she excused herself and used a secure terminal to access her long-abandoned academic account. There she found a message from her former quantum mechanics professor, now linking her to a rapidly expanding network of scientists, engineers, and even talented amateurs coordinating a very different kind of response. Madam President, the message began, conventional weapons won't work against their shields, but we've identified 3 vulnerabilities in their communication systems. They're using quantum entanglement principles that we've been studying theoretically for decades. Their mistake was assuming theory couldn't quickly become practice under pressure. Attached was a comprehensive analysis of the alien technology, compiled by thousands of contributors worldwide in less than 36 hours, an unprecedented collaborative scientific effort spanning continents, disciplines, and backgrounds. When Admiral Vextor received reports of Earth's failed military responses, he permitted himself a satisfied smile. The humans were reacting exactly as predicted, with desperate, uncoordinated violence. The countdown to their inevitable surrender continued precisely on schedule. He remained completely unaware of the invisible network forming beneath the surface of human society, a network that represented humanity's true power hiding in plain sight. The improvised human resistance network expanded exponentially as the Zarkonian deadline approached. University servers normally devoted to climate modeling and protein folding simulations now analyzed alien communication patterns. Gaming computers with powerful graphics processors joined together in makeshift clusters, testing quantum interference models against the patterns observed in Zarkonian transmissions. In Tokyo, a group of animation studio programmers repurposed their rendering farm to simulate potential vulnerabilities in the alien shield harmonics. They shared their findings through encrypted channels originally designed by cryptocurrency developers. The shield frequencies shift in predictable patterns, messaged Hiroshi Tanaka, lead programmer at the studio. Each rotation follows mathematical progression similar to Fibonacci sequences, but with quantum variations. His message reached Dr. Eliza Mbeki in Cape Town, who had been tracking the same patterns through South Africa's radio astronomy array. Yes, and the rotation creates microsecond gaps at precisely calculable intervals, she replied. If we could broadcast a counter-frequency during one of these gaps, their conversation joined thousands of others happening simultaneously across continents, time zones, and language barriers. Translation algorithms originally designed for social media now converted technical discussions between experts who spoke different languages, allowing unprecedented collaboration. Meanwhile, Admiral Vextor received regular reports on Earth's observable response. Military vessels repositioning, Governmental communications intensifying. Weapon systems being readied. Exactly as anticipated, he noted to his command staff. They prepare conventional defenses against unconventional attackers. Classic primitive response. Science Officer Pelnara approached cautiously. Admiral, we're detecting unusual activity in their civilian networks. Communication patterns unlike previous models. Civilians sharing panic and misinformation, Commander Drelvos dismissed. Their social communication platforms are always chaotic. Pelnara hesitated. With respect, these patterns don't match typical civilian communication profiles. They're structured almost like... Like what, Science Officer? The Admiral asked, his tone carrying a warning. She stepped back. Likely nothing significant, Admiral. Perhaps emergency coordination. While the Zarkonians monitored official channels, Earth's actual response formed through systems they considered irrelevant. College students reprogrammed amateur radio equipment to detect fluctuations in the alien ship's energy fields. Retired engineers dusted off theoretical designs never implemented due to budget constraints. Software developers created algorithms that could predict the aliens' communication protocols by analyzing the fragments already intercepted. In Nairobi, Dr. Wangari Muthoni called an urgent virtual meeting with colleagues from 6 continents. We've identified the frequency patterns they use for internal ship-to-ship communication, she explained, displaying complex waveforms. Their technology uses quantum entanglement to prevent interception, but they're making a fundamental assumption. They assume we can't generate counter-entanglement fields, added Dr. Hiroaki Sato from Kyoto University. But 10 years ago, our team demonstrated theoretical models for exactly this. Theory isn't practice, cautioned Dr. Emily Chen from Princeton. We've never built functioning counter-entanglement devices. Dr. Muthoni smiled. Actually, we have, just not for this purpose. She shared her screen, showing schematics for quantum computing components developed independently by research teams in 37 countries. None of these were designed as weapons or countermeasures. They were created for medical imaging, atmospheric modeling, and computational chemistry. But together they form exactly the components we need, Dr. Sato finished, eyes widening. If we could coordinate deployment through enough distributed nodes, we can, interrupted Kevin Chen, the teenage prodigy. I've modified my science fair project to synchronize quantum fluctuations across distributed systems. It works on my test network. As dawn approached across different time zones, humanity's invisible resistance continued building an unprecedented response, one the Zarkonians couldn't see because they were looking in all the wrong places. Admiral. Vextor's command center erupted in confusion as more systems malfunctioned. The tactical display flickered between accurate readings and impossible data. Target locks dissolved seconds after acquisition. The communications officer tore off his neural interface headset as the human music increased in volume, now joined by thousands of different songs broadcasting simultaneously across all frequencies. Impossible, the weapons officer shouted over the cacophony. They're broadcasting on frequencies they shouldn't even be able to detect, let alone transmit on. The Admiral slammed his fist on the command console. Isolate our critical systems from external inputs, switch to autonomous targeting protocols. But the autonomous systems fared no better. When they attempted to recalibrate using quantum positioning, they encountered bizarre interference patterns. What the Zarkonians couldn't know. Thousands of modified satellite dishes and radio telescopes across Earth now broadcast precisely calculated signals that created a quantum interference mesh around the planet. In the Australian outback, Aboriginal elders had granted emergency access to radio telescope arrays, normally reserved for deep space observation. In rural Alaska, a network of climate research stations redirected their atmospheric monitoring equipment to broadcast counter-frequencies. From the peaks of the Himalayas to research stations in Antarctica, every functional broadcasting device on the planet contributed to the interference pattern. On the secondary Zarkonian vessel, Commander Lixaven watched with growing horror as the ship's navigational systems began reporting contradictory positions. We appeared to be simultaneously above Beijing and in orbit around their moon, she reported to the flagship. Engineering cannot explain the phenomenon. What humans had discovered was elegantly simple. The Zarkonian technology relied on absolute positioning through quantum reference points. By creating artificial quantum fluctuations at precisely calculated points around the globe, humanity had effectively created a hall of mirrors for the alien targeting systems. Dr. Singh explained it to President Adeyemi through a secure channel. Their targeting systems need stable quantum reference frames. We're creating quantum noise that makes their systems see multiple versions of the same target. It's like trying to hit a specific water droplet in a dense fog. Admiral Vextor, growing desperate as the flagship's systems continued to malfunction, made a critical decision. Prepare the gravity disruptor. Target their largest population center. They cannot interfere with a weapon they've never encountered. The enormous weapon began charging, drawing power from the ship's main reactors. Designed to alter gravitational constants within a targeted area, it could liquefy Earth's crust beneath major cities, causing catastrophic collapse. What the Admiral didn't realize, Dr. Petrova's team had already identified the unique energy signature of the weapon during its charging phase. From her makeshift command center in a university basement, she sent the alert. Gravity weapon charging. Implementing countermeasure Gamma. Across Earth, the improvised defense network reconfigured. The quantum interference pattern shifted, now concentrating on the specific frequencies used by the Zarkonian gravity weapon. Thousands of modified devices, from university particle accelerators to medical MRI machines, generated precisely calibrated counter frequencies. On the flagship, the weapons officer stared in disbelief at his console. Admiral, the gravity disruptor, it's experiencing feedback loops. The targeting system cannot establish a fixed reference point. If we fire without a stable lock, the gravitational effects could rebound on our own vessels. For the first time, Admiral Vextor felt something he had never expected to experience during this simple conquest mission. Uncertainty. The humans were not merely resisting, they were countering technologies they should have no knowledge of, using methods that weren't in any Zarkonian tactical database. How? He whispered, watching as more ship systems reported failures. How are they doing this? The Zarkonian flagship trembled as internal power fluctuations cascaded through critical systems. Admiral Vextor clutched his command chair, furious and bewildered. His two support vessels reported similar malfunctions across all systems. Status. Report, he demanded. Main weapons inoperative, reported the tactical officer. Shields functioning at 63% capacity and declining. Navigation systems compromised. Internal communications limited to hardline connections. Commander Drelvos approached, his normally confident posture now hesitant. Admiral, we've identified the source of the interference. The humans are using their global communication network to coordinate attacks from thousands of transmission points simultaneously. Impossible. Their technology is too primitive to affect our systems. Science Officer Pelnara spoke up. Admiral, I believe we misunderstood their technological approach. They aren't using centralized advanced systems. They're using distributed networks of simpler devices operating in perfect coordination. On Earth, the coordinated counterattack entered its second phase. Kevin Chen, operating from his bedroom in Seattle, sent the signal that activated dormant code in satellites orbiting Earth. These satellites, weather monitors, telecommunications relays, and scientific instruments had been surreptitiously updated over the past 24 hours with programs written by programmers from 37 countries. Satellite network activated, Kevin reported to the Global Coordination Channel. Beginning targeted electromagnetic pulse sequence, Dr. Singh confirmed from Bangalore. Receiving telemetry from modified Hubble systems, frequency isolation complete. The EMP will affect only their specific power signature without damaging our own electronics. The Zarkonians had dismissed Earth's satellites as primitive observation platforms, never imagining they could be repurposed as weapons. Now these supposedly harmless devices emitted precisely calibrated electromagnetic pulses, targeting the exact frequency of Zarkonian power cores. Admiral, the engineering officer shouted as alarms blared across the flagship. Unknown energy, pulses penetrating our shields, power core stability compromised. Vextor stared at the tactical display in disbelief. The pulses originated from the very satellites his reconnaissance team had categorized as primitive observation equipment and basic communication relays. How could such devices generate energy patterns capable of disrupting advanced Zarkonian technology? What he couldn't understand. Earth scientists had been studying electromagnetic weapons for decades. The technology existed in theoretical form, but had never been deployed, until now, when necessity turned theory into urgent application. Across Earth, university laboratories that had been researching clean energy suddenly became weapons development centers. Medical devices designed to precisely target cancer cells were reprogrammed to focus electromagnetic energy against alien power systems. Radio astronomy equipment built to detect faint signals from distant stars now broadcast powerful disruptive pulses. In her Antarctic research station, Dr. Elena Volkov redirected the facility's atmospheric monitoring array. Targeting the flagship's port stabilizers, she reported to the network. Synchronized pulse in 3, 2, 1. The flagship lurched violently as its port stabilizers failed. Similar reports came from targeting teams worldwide as each critical system on the alien vessels was systematically identified and attacked. On the Zarkonian bridge, the tactical display showed their 3 mighty warships, now effectively crippled, surrounded, by a planet that should have surrendered hours ago. How? Admiral Vextor whispered again. How did they adapt so quickly? Science Officer Pelnara studied the incoming data with growing understanding. Admiral, I believe we made a fundamental error in our assessment. We evaluated their technology based on what they've built, not what they could build under pressure. Their theoretical knowledge far exceeds their apparent technological level. As the flagship's main power core initiated emergency shutdown protocols, Admiral Vextor faced an unthinkable reality. His guaranteed victory had transformed into potential defeat at the hands of a supposedly primitive species, a species that had revealed capabilities no Zarkonian intelligence assessment had predicted. The boarding teams approached the disabled Zarkonian vessels in spacecraft that looked cobbled together, because they were. NASA's Orion capsules had been hastily modified with Russian docking equipment, Chinese life support systems, and Indian communication arrays. Scientists and engineers from dozens of countries had worked through the night to prepare these vessels for a mission no human spacecraft had been designed to perform. Inside the lead vessel, Commander Sarah Chen, formerly of NASA's astronaut Corps, reviewed final approach procedures with her international team. Remember, our primary objective is securing their database and communication systems. Secondary objective is capturing command personnel for intelligence purposes. Dr. Yusuf Rahman, an Egyptian linguist who had deciphered key elements of the Zarkonian language in less than 12 hours, nodded. Their hierarchical communication indicates the flagship's command center is located in the central sphere. Admiral Vextor will likely be there. The team's engineers had studied the alien ship's external architecture and theorized access points based on thermographic readings taken during the electromagnetic attack. Heat signatures revealed airlock locations and internal corridors that matched patterns observed across all 3 vessels. Preparing for docking procedure, announced flight engineer Dmitry Volkov, guiding their craft toward what appeared to be an emergency access port on the flagship's upper quadrant. On Earth, President Adeyemi addressed an emergency session of the United Nations Security Council. The boarding teams are approaching the alien vessels now. If successful, we will gain critical intelligence about the extent of the threat we face. The Chinese representative leaned forward. And if they fail? Then we implement contingency. Omega, she replied gravely. Every nuclear-capable nation has agreed to coordinate strikes if the boarding fails. We would rather not destroy potentially valuable technology, but we cannot risk the aliens regaining control of their weapons. Meanwhile, Admiral Vextor's command center had descended into chaos. Emergency lighting cast an eerie glow over the bridge as officers worked frantically to restore critical systems. External contact detected at Auxiliary Port 7, shouted the security officer. Reading atmospheric pressure changes consistent with a boarding attempt. The Admiral's crystalline teeth clenched in fury. Deploy security drones to all access points. No primitive boarding party will take control of an Imperial vessel. But when the security officer attempted to activate the defensive drones, nothing happened. The entire automated security network had been rendered inoperative by the targeted electromagnetic pulses. Commander Drelvos drew his sidearm. We will defend the bridge manually. The ship shuddered as Commander Chen's team breached the airlock. Using reverse-engineered schematics derived from intercepted Zarkonian communications, they navigated confidently through the vessel's corridors. When they encountered locked internal barriers, Kevin Chen, now integrated into the mission via remote link, provided override codes he'd extracted from the aliens' own authentication protocols. Their entire security system uses quantum encryption keys that cycle according to predictable mathematical progressions, Kevin explained through the team's communication system. Once you understand the pattern, you can predict the next key, in sequence. Admiral Vexator received increasingly desperate reports as the humans penetrated deeper into his ship. Security checkpoints fell one after another. The engineering section reported human intruders accessing critical systems with inexplicable ease. How are they navigating our vessel? He demanded. How do they understand our technology? Science Officer Pelnara, monitoring the humans' progress through security feeds, finally understood. Admiral, they're not just reacting to our technology, they're learning from it in real time. Their adaptive capacity exceeds anything in our records of conquered species. When the bridge doors slid open to reveal Dr. Petrova and Commander Chen's team in modified spacesuits, Admiral Vextor faced the unthinkable: surrender to a species he had dismissed as primitive just hours earlier. Admiral Vexator stood by the window of his diplomatic residence, watching birds circle in Earth's blue sky. After 2 weeks of confinement and daily interrogations, today marked his first meeting with the humans who had actually defeated his forces, not their military leaders, but their civilian problem solvers. The door opened to admit a most unlikely delegation: Dr. Singh, Kevin Chen, Dr. Petrova, and Emmanuel Okafor. No uniformed military personnel, no obvious weapons, just 4 humans of varying ages and backgrounds who had coordinated the defense that crippled 3 advanced Zarkonian warships. You're younger than I expected, the Admiral said, his translator, rendering his clicks and hums into English. Kevin Chen, barely 17, smiled. That's funny. You're exactly how I imagined you would look. Dr. Singh placed a tablet on the table between them. We've brought something to show you, Admiral. It's a visualization of how Earth responded to your invasion. The screen displayed a time-lapse map of Earth, showing tiny points of light appearing, connecting, and forming an increasingly complex network over the 48 hours following the Zarkonian arrival. Each light represented a human contributor to the defense effort. Scientists, engineers, programmers, technicians, and countless ordinary citizens offering resources or insights. This is why you failed, Dr. Petrova explained. Not because we were stronger or more advanced, but because you couldn't conceive of our response model. Emmanuel leaned forward. Your civilization evolved from a species with hierarchical, centralized problem-solving.
Information flows up, decisions flow down. It's efficient for certain challenges, but fundamentally vulnerable to unexpected scenarios. The Admiral's inner eyelids flickered in the Zarkonian expression of reluctant agreement. Our tactical assessments.
Analyze enemy capabilities based on observable infrastructure and documented technological achievements. Your visible technology suggested primitive capabilities. Yet you found yourselves defeated by a planetary population using technology you deemed inferior, Dr. Singh observed. How do you explain this contradiction? Admiral Vextor stared at the network visualization, watching it grow exponentially, more complex with each passing hour of the crisis. Your problem-solving methodology is chaotic, unpredictable. In the Imperium, research follows predetermined paths established by central authorities. Solutions emerge from designated experts, working within established parameters. Kevin nodded enthusiastically. But on Earth, anyone can contribute. When I identified patterns in your ship's energy emissions, I posted my observations online. Within hours, professors I'd never met were building on my work, combining it with their own research. Emergent problem solving, Dr. Petrova added. The solution emerges from thousands of individual contributions without central direction. The Admiral's posture shifted, a subtle indication of growing comprehension. This explains why our intelligence assessment was flawed. We measured what you had built, not what you could build. We categorized your theoretical research as academic curiosity, not latent capability. Emmanuel smiled. Exactly. While your civilization builds technology systematically from established foundations, humanity pursues thousands of theoretical pathways simultaneously. Most lead nowhere. But when faced with an existential threat, all theoretical knowledge becomes immediately applicable, the Admiral finished, genuine understanding dawning in his crystalline eyes. Your apparent technological limitations were actually a misinterpretation, Dr. Singh concluded. Your assessment protocols classified Earth as primitive because they measured the wrong variables. You quantified our energy production, weapons systems, and space presence, all valid metrics for hierarchical civilizations. But for distributed problem-solving networks like humanity, we should have measured your adaptation rate, not your current technology level. Vextor acknowledged, finally grasping the fundamental error that had led to his defeat. The observation deck of Earth's first faster-than-light vessel offered a breathtaking view as the ship accelerated beyond conventional physics. Stars blurred into streaks of light as the modified Zarkonian drive engaged, propelling humanity into a realm once thought unreachable. Admiral Vextor and Dr. Singh stood side by side, watching their trajectory displayed on the holographic navigation system. The ship's design represented a perfect synthesis. Zarkonian engineering principles reimagined through humanity's unique perspective. Your engineers made 17 fundamental improvements to our propulsion system in just 6 months, the Admiral observed. The Imperium's research division would require decades to achieve similar innovations. Dr. Singh nodded, because they would approach the problem sequentially, following established protocols. Our teams approached it from hundreds of different angles simultaneously. Some failed, but those that succeeded were quickly integrated. Behind them, the diplomatic delegation prepared for humanity's first official contact with the Zarkonian Imperium. Representatives from 39 Earth nations would present a unified message while showcasing Earth's cultural and philosophical diversity, a deliberate demonstration of the very quality that had proven so powerful. The Imperial Council will not understand, Vextor cautioned. They will see your differences as weakness, your diversity as inefficiency. Then we will have to show them otherwise, President Adeyemi replied, joining them at the viewport. Just as we showed you. The Admiral's inner eyelids flickered with what the humans had learned was amusement. I have transmitted comprehensive reports about Earth's capabilities, but the Council dismisses them as exaggerations. They believe I'm attempting to justify my failure. Their disbelief works to our advantage, Dr. Petrova commented, studying the star charts. The element of surprise served us well once before. Earth had changed profoundly in the 6 months since the failed invasion. While maintaining distinct nations and cultures, humanity had united around planetary defense and exploration initiatives. The reverse-engineered Zarkonian database accelerated technological development across multiple fields, from medicine to energy production to material science. What most impresses me, Admiral Vextor confessed, is not what you've built from our technology, but how you've improved it. You didn't simply copy our designs, you reimagined them according to principles we never considered. Dr. Zhang, head of the engineering team, joined the conversation. That's because we asked different questions. Your engineers ask, how can we make this more powerful? Our engineers ask, why does it work this way, and could it work differently? The Admiral had come to appreciate this fundamental difference in thinking. The Zarkonian mind excelled at optimization within established parameters. The human mind excelled at questioning those parameters entirely. As the ship approached the coordinates for the final faster-than-light jump toward the Imperium's capital system, Admiral Vextor reflected on the report he would deliver personally to the Imperial Council. No transmitted message could adequately convey what he had learned about humanity. Your species should have been an easy conquest, he said quietly to President Adeyemi. By every standard metric in our assessment protocols, Earth was categorized as vulnerable and technologically inferior. The president smiled. Then perhaps your Imperium needs new metrics. Indeed, the admiral agreed, watching as Earth's unusual vessel, part Zarkonian technology, part human innovation, prepared to arrive at the heart of the Imperium in a manner no alien ship had ever attempted. The Council believes they will be meeting representatives of a barely spacefaring species that got lucky against an under-equipped expeditionary force. And what will they actually be meeting? Asked Dr. Singh. The Admiral's translator conveyed the nuance of his response perfectly. A civilization that turns theoretical knowledge into practical solutions faster than any species we've encountered. A people whose creative chaos produces more innovation in months than our ordered processes. Achieve in decades. They expect supplicants seeking mercy. They will instead meet humanity.